It is time for you to stop all of your stuff. This is time for you to stop all of your sobbing. There's one thing you gotta do to make it move. Gotta stop sobbing now. Yeah. Stop it. Gotta stop sobbing now. It is time that stand up. Yes, it's time you to let so keep on trying. Oh, no, there's one thing you gotta do. Still watching the news. Yeah. Stop it. Gotta stop now. Please, and then take you in my arms, dead to stop all your sobbing. Yes, it's time for you to stop all of your suffering. Yes, it's time for you to stop all of your sobbing. Uh-huh. There's one thing you gotta do to make me say what you do. Gotta stop sobbing now. Yeah. Stop. Gotta stop sobbing now. Stop. Gotta stop now. Stop it. And my friends say I know it's right. Say my friend, say my friend, hang on for close to you. She is gone, she is gone, and now just you. Say my friend, she doesn't listen. Now she's gone, now she's gone. You say go now. She is gone. She is gone. She's gone. Now there's no way to take her. She is gone. There's no said if you I can stay there. Say my dream. Same night three. Again. See you again. Baby, I feel good. The moment I arrive, feel good from to the end of the day, to the end of the day. Hello. Ah, that's cool. Right. Hello. How are you? Lovely people. Anybody wants to come in, grab a seat? Welcome. It's all comfy. Us. Everyone's waving at me. Come on. It looks like we're competing with the rocket thing which is flying up there, so I wasn't right on anything else. Fine. You good, Neil? You good on the We're good. All right, thank you. Welcome to MakeFest 2023. From MakeFest, you've probably been here a while. It's been all day. It's been on for a while. We're going to have three fabulous spoken word artists. It is the year of spoken word, I've been told. It's the year of spoken word, so it very much fits in. And we're going to have Kath Holland, who's going to kick us off. So please give a live welcome to Kath Holland.
Hello, everyone. This is about I love podcasts. Now, because it's been on the autistic spectrum somehow. And we had one very special thing in common. So I'm going to tell you about it now. This is like don't think badly when I share this confession. I'm not sure myself about it. When I was a girl, my auntie Bessie gave me a 7K party Breton and swing shoes. Bessie was tall and thin with big and feet. She never married and had a different corporate to her. She didn't do social interactions very well, but she did love Elvis. Crystal shellac, 7K RPM, would never intend it to last. Yeah, 5 hours. She was survived now. Unscathed, did not attract, wasn't that. It was the first Elvis thing I ever. Since then, I've collected the trashier ends of Elvis and Becker. Elvis ashtrays, piano, horse with legs with twigs, all marketed to women, 90s, 70s, 80s, women like my Aunt Bessie, who bought anything with his classic face on. I'm making proud to continue that tradition. Get your bags and something. We finished in 1 o'clock with dancer. Okay, one go. 7 years ago, I went to a shower shop in Birkenhead and I saw a beautiful help. Now, when I say this time, it was time in eight, smiling only at the middle, the tiny look from the small one around the edge. £3 at the reason why I didn't it. I had to exactly. The guy was Becky baby to for it. They sat in behind the counter. And it was when I saw it, the smaller sticker. It was tiny, really. Sold, it said. Sheila to collect. Without missing a beat, my hand snaked down. I carefully unpeeled the sticker from the mirror, my mirror, and I curled it into my palm and I paid the £3. Smiling blandly, I left. And I felt bad for Sheila, but not bad enough. And I feel sorry now, but not sufficiently so to ever do anything about it. And I wonder if Auntie Betty, she would have done this awful thing. Somehow I think she might. Either way, it's for her. Thanks. Thank you very much. This is family friendly Kathy getting today. After after a certain time of day, it goes a little bit AWOL, but you're getting very family friendly version of me. It's the second time family friendly Kath's been out in a week, so I'm feeling a bit tired, a bit excited. So anyway, last year, two of my cats died, and they died within weeks of each other, and I'd had them for a very, very long time, and they've been my companions for through some very, very difficult times. Yeah, I always look on them as my family, and they both fell off the perch literally within a few weeks, and yeah, it sort of made me think about a lot of things, and yeah, put me on a bit of a back foot for a while. So I thought I wrote a little thing about my little May, who was the final one to die, and it's called Making a Mark. Life changing events, they never go to schedule, and the hints in the word change. After 19 years, my little black cat left me. And the vet said how she had a 19-year-old cat herself. And she rooted around for compliments about my cat with bald ears, who looked every minute of her 19 years. And the vet, she remarked on what a glossy coat she had for her age and how she'd done really well for her age. And someone on Instagram, they said, at least, she had a good innings. And she lived her best life with me, apparently. Now, the most precious souls, they leave their mark literally, and May, she scarred my arm, thigh, and flesh with tight claws to stop herself falling from my lap after waking. And she used my vinyl albums as a scratching post, claws against ridges of the spines, meaning I covered them with scarves and tablecloths. The more records collected, the more sheets got bought. My living room looked for years like I was on a permanent painting and decorating binge. But they can go now, and I can see my books again, and the room is full of visual colour. The room looks tidier and bigger, and I can go away for more than 2 nights now, and I have more space, more time for me. And that's good, isn't it? Is the vacuum cleaner and ironing board like normal people. I still have cat food though, just no cat. I can eat my dinner without her shoving her face into it, and I don't worry about her anymore. I didn't realise how much worry I carried for her, but no worry is heavy too. Empty bowl, empty house. No more cutting the fatty bit off a chop and handing it to her expectant face. No more putting a bit of my dinner to one side every single night for her expectant face. Her joy at the new morning, the new day, no matter what. She taught me I'm not dead inside after all. She reminded me that cats have staff and servants, and she reminded me to know my place, and that I was loved. Thanks. Thank you. Okay, this one is inspired by a song by a band called Ultimate Painting, and it's called Monday Morning Somewhere Central, and it's basically like the sliding doors film. So you've got two people who are like missing each other, and I quite like the thought of someone doing that at rush hour. So this is called Rush Hour. It's Friday morning, 8 a.m. Rush hour. I'm at the train station, and the weekend is 8 or 9 hours away. Commuters stand elbow to elbow, jostling for position. The tight corner of a briefcase scores into the fleshy part of my calf, and I'm glad I didn't have any tights clean because there'd be a sodding great ladder in them by now. In front of me is a woman. She's got a toddler and a too small stroller, and what they're doing here at this time is anyone's stupid guess. The toddler screams, and people stare, and the woman rolls her eyes, shrugs, and mouths, kids, eh? But she enjoys the attention and laps it up. And she dips down and pats the child's head. And it's then I see thee on the platform on the other side of the track. I see thee head down next and reading a book. On the page or a string of dialogue making you happy, a character taking you somewhere special and nice. Either way, you're enjoying it. And I hope you'll see me, but I don't wave or shout or make it obvious. I let fate decide, and exactly as I hope, you look up. But you don't make me out. Your glance is more of a dance, flitting from face to face. It doesn't settle on me. Someone comes and you see them all right, and you close your book with a snap and a smile. You lean in so close that when they speak, your eyelids flutter, at the puffs of air coming from between their lips, and I soften my gaze to save myself. And when it sharpens again, you're back in your book. You're alone and frowning, this time 2 black vertical creases between your brows. And more than anything, it's them leaving or something in the book that's annoyed you. Or maybe it's them being here in the first place. I should have kept watch. Between where you stand and where I stand is not that big a distance as the crow flies. And there's a bridge over the track, one with a short stairs up and down, and the muscles in my leg tighten and tense before my brain has time to think. They're saying, go for it, run. It won't take long, you're closer than the weekend. But a train pulls in, cutting between us, slicing our worlds in two, and people around me moving quickly. They lunge and punch forward in a solid block, stealing my air, shuffling, twisting, turning, stuffing themselves in between narrow doors. When they're gone, and when the train's gone, so are you, and there's flat, empty concrete where you stood. It's like you were never here in the first place. The entire platform is clean, empty of anything and anybody. It's rush hour after all, and everyone has somewhere they need to be. Thanks. Um, Okay, so like I think it was about 2000, year 2000. Someone discovered that you could just import absinthe because it was like you couldn't buy it for years in the UK, and then someone discovered you could just import it. So it all of a sudden it was in all it was like in Tesco and Asda and all that, and everyone just had a really good time for about 6 months, then realised it was just an expensive way to get wasted. Um, but my husband and I we got given a bottle of black absinthe, which is extra strong, and we had a bit of a night on it. And it's like just a really good. It's like a very foggy memory, but it's a really, really good one. So this is called All Praise the Black Goddess. Let me just check if this is the right one. Where is it? Yeah, okay. So we got given a bottle of black absinthe for a welcome and goodbye. Green fairy turned ebony goddess, flashing a fleshy, biteable thigh. A thick, sweet ink, purple tinted. It clung to the throat when supped. Heady, heavy, strong. Psychedelic snarl. Verlaine, Wilde, Toulouse-Lautrec, Picasso, Degas, Rambo, and Ernest Hemingway, right there in the room. They egged us on. They whispered spirited advice, and we stood no chance. They loosened our lips. They made us say and do. But we didn't throw super artwork, because that's a dick move. But with sunflower seasons, months to go, if it ever comes at all, we contorted our bodies, we twisted our limbs, and we chewed on wormwood leather to smother Medusa hunger. We ravished and discarded the wretched and the weak, and we feasted on fresh raw cuts. Blood dripping down me chin, and you licked it off, swallowed and smacked your lips. The musicians, they picked up their instruments and they played the devil's filthiest tunes as we fought with the painters and we sinned with the poets. We cavorted with angel-faced sculptures, with beautiful hands, long fingers, smooth and flawless and alabaster white. We laughed with the artists of deliciously delirious mind. On the turn of midnight, the brand new year, we darkened from that nice couple from number 69 into that pair the neighbours don't talk to anymore, but talk about a lot. But nowadays, the bottle half full, because we spilled a fair bit, it sits in a cupboard out of my eyesight. And it's not to be drunk these days, and any suspicion of aniseed, it makes my stomach clench. The wooden stopper, it rots year on year, but stays stubborn in dutiful place. But every 31st of December, I take the bottle and I turn it in my hands and I make out the mischiefs gleaming inside, still creating wonderful merry hell. And I put it back on the cupboard shelf, an unseen trophy, a beautiful savage memory, one never bettered. Because we got given absinthe and you and me we got right messed up that night. And it was good. Thank you. Thanks.
Lovely. Thank you, Kath. That was fantastic. I don't know which one of you guys is going to go next. Sally. Okay, brilliant. Right then, we're going to continue on right now with some more spoken word for you. We're going to have Sally Porter. Let's give her a big welcome.
Hello. I thought that as we're in a library today, it seems only fitting to start with a poem about the importance of libraries. I had my first child when I was quite young, and it caused a bit of trouble in the family, and they were disappointed, and etc. etc. And to cut a long story short, I ended up living in a tiny little flat in New Brighton, and there was just me and my little girl, and we were very poor. The flat was very small, and the one saving grace was the local library, New Brighton Library. And this is my little tribute to that. And it's called Stories. The flat is cold, but I tell her stories. I stuff an old rag rug in the gap where the window won't close and tell my small child it's a flying carpet left out for any passing sprites who might wish to take flight across the New Brighton skies. There are days when the only food I can give is but I am creative and put jam on the skins for pudding. I will not ask for help from those high, even if I stand on tiptoes on a stepladder, I cannot reach it. So we spread a tablecloth and light candles and tell stories of queens and beasts and bountiful feasts, and we make the most of the least. The library is warm. Fairy tales and toys delight my child, and a whole rack of books just for me. Virago, Women's Press, Faber, they are my lifeline. I take some home. Others I read here with my fellow outsiders, like the lonely woman who reads the giant books with the large print, a finger following each word, and the silent man who stares at a newspaper hoping for good news. We stay all day. The staff, my new family, they know us by our names, and when it rains, they don't make us take our lunch outside. At 5 o'clock, we choose which books to take and which to save for next time. We walk home, our heads full of stories, a small gloved hand in mine. Thank you. Okay. This another true story. This is about a time when someone who'd bullied me when I was a little girl tried to contact me through social media, wanting to be my friend. And it's called Message. The message is waiting in my mail like a wasp in a coat pocket. Dear Sally, how have you been? Carol Fowler. Carol Fowler, the girl who bullied me viciously through primary school. How have you been? Not sorry or I've changed and I want to make amends or be your friend, but how have you been? Well, Carol Fowler, I'll tell you how I've been. Reply. Carol, you left scars on my heart far deeper than the ones you etched into my arms. Just the sight of your name, even now, spews back the sickness I would feel each time you approached, and years of my childhood were poisoned by fear. While we're on the subject, she's getting both barrels now. On one occasion on my way to school, I was so scared, I actually wet myself. And then I stop. Read every words, this epistle of vitriol, and I think, is this really how I've been? For a time, maybe, but I've also been happy. I've held babies in my arms and healed as they have grown, nourished by their light and goodness, as the water of their happiness quenched my hurting heart, so it bloomed like a poppy. I have been kissed and held. I have danced and laughed with people I loved beneath a galaxy of fairy lights in my own kitchen. And come to think of it, what you did to me has meant it's been my aim that no young person on my watch will ever go through the same, which can only be a positive. So I revise my reply. Dear Sally, how have you been? Reply. I've been loved. Have you? Passive aggressive, perhaps, the question mark suggesting or even hoping she hasn't been loved. And then it comes to me that whilst not always, sometimes it's better to ignore than to hate. So I start again. Dear Sally, how have you been? Carol Fowler. Reply, delete. My son and his partner had a baby a couple of months ago, and there'd been a lot of problems before they got pregnant. There was there were problems all through the pregnancy, and little Albie was born, and he was quite premature, and he was only 4 pounds. And this is about him. It's called Albie, and he's doing really well now. So Albie, as quiet as a leaf, curled like a comma on my son, your dad's chest. More bird than baby, limbs like daisy stems. I Google your weight. Dream apparently as a carton of oat milk or a few small cans of soup. The premature baby clothes, already miniature, hang off your tiny limbs like empty glove puppets. We fret. How can something so fragile be sent home from the safety of hospital care? Every part of you, so small, so perfect. I can't stop looking at you. I see my son and my dad in your tiny, exquisite face. The tranquility of your sleep belies the worry we shared before your birth. But as you grow, we celebrate each ounce as a triumph, a flag on the moon. You are small, but as strong as the heartbeat that first thumped on that screen like a victory fist that promised your arrival and filled us with joy. Thank you. Someone sent me a photo of, it was a photo of my mum from when she was about 17 or 18 on the beach with her family, looking all very, very glamorous. And I posted it on Instagram and somebody wrote underneath, straight up beauty queen. And I just like that phrase. And so this poem is about that. You are on a beach, the waves conned in the shallow, flanked by an awkward skinny boys in the tide of your Monroe-esque sexuality. Straight up beauty queen. This photo of a photo is blurred, so it's unclear if behind you there are grass-topped sand dunes or houses. West Kirby, I guess, or your annual trip to Wales. But my eyes are only on you, your whole life ahead, as you pose in bikini and smiles. Even when you were old, marked by illness and bitterness, you told me that when you entered a room, every man turned to look at you. I am glad you believe that, my straight up beauty queen. Just more. This is for my friends sitting over here, Beth. We had a very, very special friend who we all loved very much. He's my best friend, and his name was Ian. And I'm guessing there's never any easy time to come out, but he came out in the 80s amidst all the hysteria around AIDS and whatever. And he was bullied by the local, even by his family to an extent. And he then went on to be a teacher and inspired lots and lots of young people and helped them through really difficult times. And we thought he'd overcome all his personal demons, but sadly he hadn't. And this is about him. And it's called Chasing Rainbows. In the photo, we are laughing. I don't remember why, but it was proper, from the kidneys, bent over, tears rolling laughter. That's how it always was for us. But I know it wasn't always laughter for you. Once, after beer, you told me of the school football team who marched past your house chanting queer, and lunch in the school stockroom, hiding from the spit and the boot, dancing on your own to tunes in your head. Mark Almond, David Bowie, both promised that one day you could be you. Later, so-called enlightened times, you led the way, changing lives, filling every room and every heart with your music, with your light. Until one grim, dark, when you just could not find the tunes to dance to. You sent words, safe trip, big kiss, and took your own beautiful life. At the funeral, your mother said you were always chasing rainbows. I want to go back to that night to remind you that you did it. You wore yourself with pride. You made lives shine. I want to dance in that stockroom with you and chase those rainbows together. Okay, this is a bit more cheerful. When I was a teenager, my favourite thing to do was to go to discos. Did anyone here go to discos? Yeah, don't seem to be as many nowadays, but you know, we can bring them back. So this is the discos of my youth, and it's called Disco Dreamers. There is always a disco in church hall, school hall, sports club, labour club, transformed in our heads into Studio 54, because we are disco dreamers. The disco starts 6 days before it actually starts, as we plan our clothes, our shoes, our makeup, our moves. We lie on Jackie's bed, miming to singles from the ex-jukebox store in Birkenhead, where all the disco dreamers shop. Until the big night arrives. We queue outside, shivering with cold and excitement, huddling together to create a sensible coat might have offered, but coats are anathema to disco dreamers. We spill onto the dance floor like beads from a snapped necklace. We don't spot the netball court outlines on the hall floor. We see only disco. No time to waste being coy. We don't need to wait for a boy. We dance with each other, a joyful merging of arms and heads, singing the songs we learnt on Jackie's bed. Yes, sir, we really can boogie. Plastic cups of orange squash, frosted shimmer lipstick. The disco ball sends sparkles of light that kiss our faces like fireflies, and we shriek when the UV light turns teeth and bra straps wickedly white. We are dancing away the heartache. We are dancing away the boredom of school and the sadness of family. We are dancing in the hope we will always be this happy. For we are disco dreamers, singing, hoping, forgetting, believing the music, if just for the night. Thank you. Just two very short ones. This one is about miscarriage and baby loss, and it's called Martha. You'd have been in your 20s now, a fully grown planet in your own universe, but shining your light on ours. I imagine you bold and wild, your hair autumnal red, like the leaves in the park where we would have played. You'd have his courage, but maybe my smile, and you'd love poetry. Of course you'd love poetry. But like a sunflower that should have grown tall and strong, seed washed away before taking root, you didn't have time. You didn't have time. I would have called her. And the last one, I was on a train coming into town, and there were loads of girls, young girls, going on a night out, and they looked all excited and gorgeous. And I was made up for them. Well, and it's called The Girls on the Train. The girls on the train are glorious, joyous, swapping lipstick and secrets like sweets, the whole carriage their mirror, their whispers and laughter a magical tune. They are beautiful. But I worry about these girls' shoes. They can barely walk in them, so how can they run from danger? I want to warn them, scoop them up like tiny coloured fish, take them to a smaller, safer pond. But their hearts are too full of hope. They yearn for the sea. They must learn for themselves how to swim. We arrive at Lime Street. They open the doors. Swim away, little fish. The ocean is yours. Thank you.
That was brilliant. Thank you, Sally. All right, then, we're going to move right on. We've got our last performer for this section before we get into Ignite. And I'm going to really try hard to say your name right. I hope I don't get it wrong. Please give a big welcome to Saint Vesper Luce. There you go.
Thank you, Dave. Could you ask all those people to be quiet down there? A lot of people often they don't think I'm a real poet. But look, I've got a poet's hat on, and I've got like an official lanyard, and look, that's me. So it must be because I've got a hat on and sunglasses indoors. This one is about growing up in Anfield in the late 60s. And the only thing you need to know about that, at one stage, children were given what was called a junior smokers set, which sounds like really horrible, but it consisted of candy cigarettes and licorice pipes and pouches of desiccated coconut. Actually, that sounds really horrible, as sort of pouches of tobacco. But this one's about growing up in poverty and getting measles and living in a house that had too many people and being hungry. And it's called Junior Smokers Set. It wasn't often they let me sleep on the couch downstairs. My brothers and sisters resented the blanket that covered me because poverty breeds meanness and envy. Poisoned by measles, I was only 6, and I tried to look at the flickering monochrome images through sore and gummed up eyes. The Mexico Olympics was a rare TV treat in the morning. Usually, there was only autumn darkness, and when the other children finished their cushioned breakfast, the world was left to darkness and to me. He'd be better off upstairs, said the doctor in the days when they called round. My mother's three-pronged attack. It's warmer down here. They've already had measles. You don't know our Stephen. Put Dr. Middleclass in his place. And poverty while flashing her contempt. And I slept, and I dreamed some more. I couldn't finish the co-op chicken soup, even when it was spooned into my mouth like I was a new arrival at Chester Zoo. And I slept, and I dreamed some more. And my sore red eyes could take no more. And so my mother helped me up the stairs and drew the orange curtains. It was fully dark at 4 o'clock, and my little head ached, and I could hear the downstairs gabble of 4 other children. Little and not so little head said, "Stay, are you all right?" as they popped round the side of the door. They were not a big hugging family, and when my mother came to wash and bathe my head, I asked for my dad and asked if he travelled home from the docks yet. 7, a lifetime for a sick little boy, and though he drank too much, there was a good heart in there, and the chance of some 7-Up if an American ship was in. And she left the world to darkness and to me. And I slept and I dreamed some more. Stephen, son, are you awake, lad? He never called me son. He didn't. He just didn't. I couldn't tell the time, but it was 7 o'clock. and my eyes were sore, and fever was the tiny scorpion of my mind. But my dad was here. There was no bedside lamp, and so he shone his torch under my bed. Did you bring me anything? Did I ever let you down? Yeah. A shadow in the penumbra, a gift in a bag. Is that for me was my tiny way of saying thanks, and I delicately grabbed the long paper bag. But even the extraction of a gift was an effort. And my dad slowly pulled the box from the bag, top upwards. I detected a glimmer, a sparkle in the dark. I could feel the thin cellophane cover. Shine the light on it, please, was my tiny command wrapped up in a plea. He did. The torch was directed low and then tilted along and up and straight, and I saw those words red on white. And though it would take another year to turn words into numbers and numbers into times, I could read all right. Junior Smokers Set. An oblong box, no rectangles in those days, and thin cellophane skin held a beauty and the colours only a child could relish, could understand. Gingerly, I lifted the box from the bag and smoothed the paper so integral to a newly discovered ritual. And I gazed upon the contents. Oh, such treasures! Books of candy matches, red topped above their yellow and red and yellow white stalks. Chocolate Havana cigars, 6 of them with foil insignia, circumnavigating their distinctly non-Cadbury Taiwanese girths. But richer and more valuable to me than the boxes of Cubans I'd later hear about on rubbish American TV sitcoms. And pipes, smokers' pipes, 3 licorice clericues for the young gentleman of distinction. Frank held the torch at such an angle that the colours burst inside my heart, and my sore eyes were sore eyes no more. Pouches of coconut tobacco stuffed the centre of the box, decorated with Spanish galleons and clad in waxy wrappings. And best of all, the cigarettes, 20 phantoms, the shadows on my late life lungs, but urging me to grow up in a sophisticated instant. There was neither ashtray nor lighter, but better still, there was a chocolate pocket watch. A metallic silver blue foil formed its metal coat casing, and the time for all eternity was 4:10. Do you like it, son? He asked. I nodded, swished from my sore little eyes. The present, the love, the kindness, just too much. And I began to feel the measles start to breathe inside me and send me under. Frank ruffled my hair, eased me flat inside the blankets, and left the junior smoker set on top of its paper bag for my first waking view, and left the world to me. Thank you. This is about a generation jump, and this is about dealing with my son, and this is about the massive difference between old people talking about the good old days and the reality. October the 31st, Halloween. My young man quietly played Halloween Manhunt on his PlayStation 1, happily chasing groups of murderous scarecrows across New England fields with his online team. Do you know what we used to do back in my day for Halloween? I asked. Joe clicked. Joe has left the game. It's good like that. I've no idea, he said. We used to play Duck Apple. What's Duck Apple? We used to, right, fill a washing up bowl with water, and then we added a few apples, then we got blindfolded, and then we had to dip our heads in the water and try and bite into an apple and pull it out of the water with our teeth. And was that fun? No, not really. No, it was crap. So why did you do it? I don't know. Oh, yeah, I do. No internet. Right. Oh, I tell you what, though, we had this really, really funny rhyme. A funny rhyme, he asked. Yeah, it went skinny Millink banana legs, big banana bum. Went to the pictures to have some fun, and when the picture started, Skinny Millink farted. Skinny Millink banana legs, big banana bum. And this was fun, he said. No, not really. It's crap. So why did you do it? Don't know. Oh, yeah, I do. No internet. Anything else from your fun childhood, he asked? Like a patronising George Sanders or an ennui-riddled Dennis Price? Ah, we had this game. It was called Poo Sticks. And when it rained really hard, we drop our ice lolly / lolly ice sticks into the pavement gutters and run after them to see which one of them reached the grid. And was this fun? Not really. No. It's crap. And Dennis Downey got run over by a car chasing his poo stick, and Stevie Kelly caught cholera from the dirty water in the gutter, and Vinnie McGreal died from dysentery after touching an actual poo stick. So why did you do it then? I don't know. Oh yes, I do. No internet. He looked at me again. There was too much wisdom in his teenage eyes. He saw through me all right. Ah, but we used to play Sabutio. Sabutio, yeah, there were these tiny plastic footballers on hemisphere-shaped bases, and you had to flick them to make contact with a plastic ball that was twice their height, and this was fun? No, not really, no. It was crap. So why did you do it then? Don't know. Yes, I do. No internet. And you know what, son? It was worse than the holidays. 20 minutes of black and white TV as holiday treats, racist sitcoms as entertainment, throwing a ball to try and bounce it off opposing curbs, usually the one where Stevie Kelly caught cholera and Vinnie McGreal died from diphtheria, or melting crisp packets in front of an electric fire to make badges, which also look crap, or putting papier-mâché over balloons to make clown heads, which also look crap. So he said, all nostalgia is essentially like an aching, dangerous, suppurating wound, seeping and slowly leaching what little life you have left inside you. I think you've nailed it with precision there, son. Mind you, we weren't stuck in all day. Really, he said. Yeah, really. We went out from 9 in the morning to 10 at night some days. Why was that then? Why was that? Because our parents really hated us. And was it fun? Nope, not really. It was crap. And did you want to stay out all day? No, not really. Not at all. I books and my telly and play games on my own and not talk to people and not play out all day. And do you think that the other kids in your class think this way now they're all grown up? They're all dead now. Dead? Yeah, dead. All of them. If the men in the park who wanted you to look for their puppies didn't get you, he got run over by cars or trains or trapped in fridges or electrocuted trying to get you frisbee from the electricity pylons, or the spirit of lonely water got you when you went swimming in the quarry, or if you were successful and got on the telly, that Savile or Rolf Harris would get you. And then what did you do? Well, those of us who didn't die in horrible 70s related accidents grew up and stole your free education and your chance to buy a house and the chance to study abroad, and hated people of colour and those who loved in their own way, and voted year in, year out for those evil clowns who make you put you in debt, and they'll curtail your freedoms and fun in perpetuity, and they'll fill your rivers and lakes and ponds with poo. There are children around. And Joe looked at me with sadness and left the room. And when he returned, he carried a washing up bowl filled with water and apples, and clasped under his arm was a 17-inch machete. Thank you. This is about growing up in that same household where there were 5 girls, a mum, a nan, and some male influence, and there was a big, very distinct delineation between what was expected of boys, of girls, of men, of women.
1963, exhibition which is going to take place at 1 p.m. and 3 p.m. in the London Library first. So if you're interested in all things minutes, if you can join in there. Thank you.
Don't you think perfumery, stationery, and leather goods going up? So here I was in this very female household, and the comics that they had for boys and girls were very different in those days, and they were nominative, determinative type things. So the ones that I was allowed to read would be called Valiant and Hotspur and Commando and Dagger and Kill That Person. And the girls' ones would be called nice things like Judy and Mandy and Bunty and June and her school friend. And when I was caught reading girls' comics, I got dogs abuse, but as I got older, I didn't really care anymore. So this is about people abusing me for not liking particularly male things. This is called conditioning, and it goes like this. That's a woman's fragrance, and that's a woman's purse. You're wearing women's glasses. You'll get the women's curse if you don't watch yourself. That's a feminine deodorant. It's not even one I like. You're wearing pink, a nod, a wink. You ride a lady's bike. You woman. You're watching women's football. You're singing women's songs. Another quirk is Douglas Sirk. I'm sure there's something wrong with you. Read the Bunty. And June and her school friends, you look at bags and women's mags. When will this madness end? You girl. So I end this toxic friendship. I spoke my thoughts out loud. I love you, Stan, but I don't give a damn. I'm woman and I'm proud. Thank you. Last one for today. This is another sort of very political one. It's called Those Fish from South America What Swim Up People's Private Parts. I went online and sent off for one of those river fish from South America what swim up people's private parts. But I didn't want my river fish from South America what swim up people's private parts to swim up my private parts because that would be horrible. But the listing said, don't worry, our river fish from South America, what swim up people's private parts, have been genetically modified not to swim up anyone's private parts. And I thought, good, because my river fish from South America, what swim up people's private parts, might swim up people's private parts. And I could imagine a scenario where I was hoovering the curtains next to the tank, what contained my river fish from South America, what swim up people's private parts. And for some reason, I was naked while I was hoovering and fell in, and one of my river fish from South America, what swim up people's private parts, swam up my private parts, and I'd have to go to the A&E at the Royal Liverpool Teaching Hospital and say, you'll never believe this, but I'm wondering why the crowd's like gathering now for something. Believe this, but I was hoovering naked because it was hot or something. No, I wouldn't say or something because that would suggest that I was making up an unlikely excuse for my river fish from South America with some of people's private parts swimming up my private parts, and I'd be dead embarrassed. So anyway, the web listing said, don't worry about your fish South America or some other people's private parts swimming up your private parts, because they won't. And even in the unlikely event that you were hoovering the drapes, there's an American website, naked around your river fish South America or some other people's private parts, and you fell in, those river fish from South America.
One of the other interesting points that somebody raised was like places that will be open in 30 years' time or after a zombie apocalypse. Bazooka Chicken. Bazooka Chicken will still be around in 30 years' time. And also this leather shop. Nobody's ever been in there. Nobody, but it's a. And here we go. Here's a nice zombie wearing a leather jacket. So that's still going to be open after a zombie apocalypse. Typical picture of a zombie apocalypse, just to illustrate the story. Couldn't get leather jackets. The other one, which I didn't do, oh no, too late, moved on. But interesting point about zombie apocalypses. We are in the bottom 10 of would we survive a zombie apocalypse, Liverpool. Merseyside tidal barrage. Somebody spoke about this, which is great. So looks absolutely great. I'm not, it would be a wonderful feature on the Mersey, and people were saying generate enough electricity for 2,000 homes or 200,000 homes, which would be really great. Which would be, of course, all this would be undermined. Another point that somebody raised was if that we were underwater with sea levels rising. So I had to do it for 20 meters. How high would the water get? And we wouldn't be safe here. We best move up the hill to Everton Brow or somewhere like that. Most of Liverpool would be gone, but we would all be living in these kinds of houses. As you can see, they're very attractive. We would get from those skyscrapers in little boats, which I think would be, yeah, that's nice. I'm not sure if I've got the chest for it. Somebody else said flying cars, and it's got to go flying cars, eh? Oh, no chance. But actually, yeah, there are flying cars. These really do exist right now. And they cost around £500,000, £400,000, etc. Somebody else was saying 30 years' time, huge amounts of dereliction taking place in the city, loads of people on the unemployment line, loads of sofas and what have you on the outside. This is what happens when you ask Reddit. Then somebody said, "Oh yeah, we'll be giving our data away to all these big corporations." I was going to play this video, but won't. And she's scanning her hand over a little reader, and that's so she can pay for some goods. And of course, all of that money is going to go to the big billionaires. Elon Musk, he's promised a city on Mars by 2050. He might manage a horse, but okay. That's the last of that. Our speakers for today are Paul Jones, Kirsty Stiles has had to drop out, Caroline White, Alex Keeter, James Watson, and my slides have just gone off. But anyway, so those are our. Thanks for that attempt, Francis. But without any more ado, I will introduce you to Paul, who is going to be talking about architecture and power. And I will go back over there, sit down and bring your slides up.
Thanks, Neil. I've never done this before. I'm terrified.
Don't be.
I like long, rambly lectures. 3 hours or so. Fidel Castro. I'm ready.
Am I ready?
Am I ready? Oh, God.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a beautiful building, but I hate these types of photographs of buildings with no people anywhere around them, completely asocialized, because this is not what architecture is actually like. Architecture is social. People use buildings. Right-wingers use them for insurrections. Politicians use them to debate. We use them as we go about our lives. And this is not just in extraordinary ways, of course, extraordinary buildings. This is kind of like in our houses, where we drop our kids off to school, where we go to work, how we interact with each other in private spaces. Great comic, this, by the way. It's called Building Stories by Chris Ware. Strongly recommend it. And if you look at cities in general, you find that architectural plans for 2053 or wherever, they never actually realized. They never actually come about as they're planned to. And that's precisely because of social life gets in the way, which is a strange way around of thinking of things. But I also want to say that what we find with architecture are the reinforcement of certain types of boundaries, certain types of relationships between people. When you look at super tall buildings, that becomes particularly apparent. Who are these for? Where do they come from? So not only do they dominate the sort of cityscape, they dominate the imagination of what the world is and what it could be. World's tallest building, Burj Khalifa. Has anyone been there? No, 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 no. £1.5 billion it cost to build. 820 meters. Anyone been here? No, no. These are like globally famous buildings. This is in Beijing. It's a central TV station. But these types of buildings raise really significant questions about how we relate to the world. This gold mine, guess how deep it is? Quick. No, 4 kilometers. Incredible. A gold mine in South Africa, just outside Johannesburg. So it really raises questions about how we relate to the earth and what types of spaces we create when we're doing that. I'm particularly interested at the moment in emptiness, in openness. So this is an atrium in a casino. That was an atrium in a casino, the world's biggest, 29 million cubic feet. It's an atrium here. We've all walked through it. There it is. This is where I work. This is Alder Hey Hospital. Huge volumes of empty space. And I think that what I want to suggest is how we as a society, what types of buildings we construct and what they're for is a really, really significant thing. That's always been true of architecture. It's always been the case that the powerful get to articulate their vision of the world onto cities, right? And, when you think of buildings like the Palace of Westminster or the Barcelona Pavilion, that was good, wasn't it? Or the Barcelona Pavilion. These are sort of ideas of how society should work. They're ideas of how the future's going to be. So when we look at architecture, what we find are these kind of experiments with how we should organize not just buildings, but how society should be organized. The really optimistic thing about this, I think, is that it's not written, right? This is now Liverpool 1, so will be familiar to most people here. There are all sorts of experiments with how the future's going to look, right? These are sites of power, so they're not completely democratic. This is an image of where, thank you, Liverpool. So this is part of the Liverpool Waters development. 42 high-rise buildings due to open in 2040. Watch that space. But the point is, the optimism is that the world could be different, right? The buildings could be different. They could support different types of uses, right? We could build different types of houses. We could redistribute wealth. And that is precisely why I think architecture is such an important space when we're thinking about the future of cities. Precisely because it could be different is why I want to suggest it's important. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks very much, Paul. Oh, there we go. Thanks very much. Our next speaker is Caroline. And Caroline, give me enough time to get your slides loaded.
Hey, everyone. So what I'm going to do, I don't know if any of you heard of these AI generation tools that are creating images and ChatGPT. So I wanted to explore, if I ask the AI tools what Liverpool's going to be like, look, what do we do to play? And it's interesting what it throws up. And also when you prompt it and how you prompt it. Is anybody? Okay, here we go. This is Sid Mead, who's a product designer who designed the Blade Runner kind of universe. He was actually a car designer. And we've been looking at future visions and how we do them. We used to have to do them by hand and pen. These kind of things in the fifth cities are going to look like. And so all these tools are quite interesting because they're littered with all of these really old ideas. And so how can you sort of program them to get what you want, which is a bit of a challenge. So here are some of the things. I know some of them are a bit sort of cliched, but I thought, okay, I'll use these as prompt to see what are these going to be like in 2053 in the future of Liverpool. I probably had too many ideas, but here we go. The worst vision I can think of, every year, seagulls just seem to be more of them and they're bigger and the worse. So what if they become all powerful beings and we have to hide in our houses because they terrorize us? That's probably the worst vision we can see. Future of transport. Like when I asked Midjourney about this, it's quite cliched, really, isn't it? I don't really know why we're in these suits or how that scooter is supporting that robot companion for that little boy there. That's the Baltic. So this was trying to get seagulls to be police, but like doesn't really work, does it? Like I don't know how that one's floating there. And this one, I don't know, he's a friendly seagull. I'll give him that, but yeah, not so policey. And even the buildings look like seagulls at this stage. It's like, right, Liverpool seagulls. It's kind of gone, the AI's gone, yeah. Arriva buses, not that futuristic, but there are some spaceships and planets because obviously there's going to be spaceships and planets. Football stadiums. He looks pretty similar, doesn't he? Hasn't aged very much. He's got some good cryogenics going on. And then there's some weird sort of ghouly figures. So you can see the AI, it kind of just throws some shit together that, sorry, bad word. Footballers of the future, Android, you know, enhanced. Again, quite cliched. Are they really going to be like this? And I don't really know what that says about the game. Or maybe we just, the new sport is fighting the seagulls. And I don't even know if there's a ball anymore. Maybe it's some kind of weird Hunger Games thing where you've got to really get out for your life amidst the feathers and the robots. Food, what's Scouse going to be like in 2053? I think, again, we might not have lamb available. Cabbage is probably still around. I think we're probably pretty safe with the potatoes. So guess what this is? Seagull. Looks quite tasty, right? I'm quite glad we've got probably our Mediterranean warm climates. We've got loads of tomatoes on the go. I don't really know what these things do, but this is apparently what we're going to eat off. How's the Scouse brow going to be looking at this time? Again, the whole Instagram filter face thing. Maybe we actually get implants in our faces. Don't know what lip fill is going to do. And then this was something from a BBC series, and they said, well, because Liverpool's on the water, maybe we'll be able to do loads of sort of really dodgy sort of cosmetic procedures because we'll evade laws and things. So maybe Liverpool will be the center of that stuff. Future of work. This is the central library. This is really interesting. I said, what will it be like when the AIs have taken all our jobs? And we can't actually envision not working. Like AI just can't envision all our images as humans are sitting at desks and working. It doesn't seem to be able to imagine what that would be. This is the Blue Angel. I said, what's that going to look like? The Raz. I've just got lots of bouncers. I mean, you're not getting through those guys without an ID. I'll tell you that much. And this is the Baltic Skate Park. The teenagers of the future. Everyone's very posed. It's just like a music video, really, isn't it? I don't know why everyone's always wearing these suits. I guess it's because of the air or the radiation or something like that. And then these guys. And then this is kind of the thing that Google, Facebook, all these tech giants, they're starting to do smart cities where they own the city and you basically have to be part of their system to do anything. This is happening in America. So what would that be like in Liverpool? If Mark Zuckerberg owned Liverpool, would he put a massive server under the water to run everything? Would there be like weird drones controlling everything? What if Manchester was Google and we were Facebook Meta and then you couldn't get between them? So ultimately, Sefton Park, you've got these massive, I guess Mark Zuckerberg's probably put them there for some reason, just new palm houses or something. But this, I suppose, is a good vision because at least we've still got some green stuff, but hopefully you don't have to pay for it. That is my view of Liverpool.
Eh? Yeah, okay. There you go. I don't know if Neil's going to do an introduction. Are you doing an introduction? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. There you go. Sorry. There you go.
And so our next speaker is Alex. And Alex, you will be talking about augmenting human intelligence, something which I could really, really do with right now. Okay, and I will be clicking Alex's slides. So Alex will be going, yeah, next slide, please.
Yeah, I didn't necessarily understand or read the format, so I sort of fell at the first hurdle. But we're here to speak and hopefully be a little bit. I don't know. I'm a real optimist about the future of AI and how that's going to help people. So hopefully that comes across in what I have to say today, because it's an exciting world. It's the images and things we've just seen are all based on what's come before, right? And this will be there we go. Right, so we'll come into this and just kick it off. So I'm talking about augmenting human intelligence. We've got this amazing tool set now where anyone can be creative, anyone can be a writer, anyone can be a poet, anyone can be an artist, anyone can be a 3D designer. If you want to get something done and don't know how to do it, you can ask ChatGPT and it will give you some good instructions of how you might give it a go. And yeah, it's not going to be perfect all the time, but it's a bloody good place to start if you have no idea where else to go. Right. Next slide, please. So, what is AI? AI is, and I'm going to stop turning around because it's right. I'm speaking to people in front of me. AI is a branch of computer science. It's noticing complex patterns. And so you get machine learning, you get your natural language processing, which is like when a computer can break down what sentiment you're trying to get from language. And you also get computer vision. So when you can recognize objects from a photo, from a video, and you take loads of data, you process it. Oh, when you put in this and you get out that, there's a relationship there. It works out the relationship. Boom. Next slide, please. AI, which is the big bee's knees we've been talking about since last November with ChatGPT, changing the world, is the ability to imitate human creativity. It's been trained on everything we've done so far since 2021, and it enables us to then go, okay, well, that's how it's been done in the past collectively. So if you ask me, give me an article about bees, it'll look at all of the articles that are bees that it's seen in the past and go, oh, here's the most likely probable solution to what you've asked me to do. And that comes across in large language, so you can ask it to produce language for you. It comes across in images, so your stable diffusion, your mid-journey. You say, I want an image of a dog riding a skateboard, and it'll find all the images of dogs, all the images of skateboards, and mash it all together. Next slide, please. So why is this important? Well, it's because it means that every single person here, doesn't matter if you went to business school or architecture school, it doesn't matter if you have any kind of experience in project management, volunteer coordination. If you want to learn how to do something, you can now ask your computer in plain English, how can I do this? Please help me understand what I'm trying to do. And it will give you a bloody good direction that you can go in, right? You still have to do the work, but the direction is something that most people, you wouldn't have otherwise. Next slide, please. So we're talking about, for example, enhancing your productivity. If you're taking this meeting, for example, I can take the audio from this, run it through a computer and get a transcript of that. I can then run that through ChatGPT, give me all of the insights in a 5 bullet point list. Boom. All of that information processed, so I can move on with my life. The same with your meetings. If you don't want to take notes in a meeting anymore, you don't have to. You just record it, take the transcript and say, okay, what are the action points? What do I need to do that's going to appease my boss at the end of the week? It'll tell you. And equally, if you're replying to emails, making copy, you just ask it for a first draft and you're off to a flying start. Next slide, please. If you're a small business and you don't have the money to pay for staff to do market research or write contracts or explain how you apply for a permit, all of a sudden you can now ask ChatGPT to explain it to you. You can ask it to write the application for you. I've used it to write grant proposals so that I can get funding for my community group. Bang. You're using technology to augment the things that you want to do to make the world a better place. Next slide, please. It's also unlocking creativity. You do not have to be an artist who has mastered their craft or a Photoshop specialist anymore. We are entering an age in which an amateur can say, "Oh, I have this idea for a dog on a surfboard or as a builder," and it will just generate that image for you. So you can go from ideas in your head to wonderful thing that you can see in front of you in seconds. Next slide, please. This has led to a new pastime for me and my partner, which we call generative storyboarding. In this case, we were looking at what we're going to do with our summer, and we just typed in fun things we wanted to do in Liverpool, and we made a nice mood board of all of the creative activities we can do. You can do this online for free today. Just go to recraft.ai, and it's there. Slide, please. As an extension of that, we're going to see a rise in movie making. If you could play the video. Will it video? I hope it Garg. Um, it should just play in the slides as like its next thing. It's okay. But essentially, you no longer have to be a professional animator to create animated content anymore. You can take videos, you can take a prompt image. So I took a prompt image of C3PO in this one and applied it to my image. So I've now got myself as a robot. If I want to make a Daft Punk music video now off my own back, I can do that. If I want to make a fairy tale storyboard for young people to create their own films or movies or animated stories, they can now do that. We live in a world in which you can have an idea of something you want to create, and the internet and computers will help you do it. It's fantastic. Next slide, please. So there's a couple of fear mongering, and there's a good amount of fear mongering going around of AI is going to take over the world. Okay, it's not going to take over the world, because at the end of the day, it's still a computer that you're putting something in and something comes out, right? It is going to change the world, but we'll come on to that. It's not intelligent because it's not making decisions for you. You still say, I want to have a recipe for making spaghetti bolognese. It will spit out the recipe. Yeah, it's bloody clever that it can do that, but it's not the decision maker. That is still the driver, the person using the tool. And it's also only imitating what it's seen so far. So it's not going to give you a brand new or optimum recipe for spaghetti bolognese. It's just going to give you a massive amalgamation of all of the ones it's seen so far. Cool. Next one, please. And why AI is going to change the world, as I'm saying, is because of the ability to explore any field, right? If you want to learn how to become a baker, if you want to apply or for mental health support and you don't know who to speak to in your council, or maybe you're getting anxiety about speaking on the phone, just say, give me a script of how I can achieve this thing, and it will help you out so you don't have to face these things in the world on your own. Beyond that, it's having access to information. I described ChatGPT as the digital library of Alexandria when I first saw it. And yeah, it's not 100% perfect. The information is not correct. But if you've grown up in an environment where information or inspiration or the ability to chase your dreams is scarce, you now live in a world where you can ask the computer to help you to achieve what you want to. And if that means making your community a better place or helping other people, you now have way more capacity to achieve that goal. And yeah, so you're unable to exercise your ideas. So the last slide I say is basically how you can get cracking with it today. If anyone's not used ChatGPT, please have a go and just be like, one of the things that I've started doing recently is I'll do a voice note on my phone. I'll just sort of like speech to text. I'll just brain dump all of the stressful things I've got going on in my life. Then I'll copy it into ChatGPT and say, okay, what should I do first? And it will give me a bloody good start, right? Your next one is Microsoft Designer. If you're looking to make a social media post about anything, say you're running a bake sale or you want more people to come and litter pick, which I'm doing today on the Baltic Green tomorrow on the Baltic Green if anyone wants to come. But yeah, if you want the message out there, just design it, type in your words, boom, it's there. You can do your own research. There are other ones as well. Recraft is a really cool one, but the things are limitless. And just, go out and realize that technology is now set up to make you as creative as you've ever dreamed of being. Next slide. Oh, and thank you for listening.
That's great, Alex. Thank you very much. I've left my book over there, so I can't actually remember who's next. And the next person up is going to be James. James, brilliant, James. James, what is it you're going to be telling us about? Photosynthesis. Okay, I like this. I'll load up your slides. You give me the nod when you're ready to start.
Okay, so hi everyone. I'm a first year PhD student at University of Liverpool, and I'm working in photosynthesis and carbon fixation. So we're trying to look at ways in which we can try and deal with the climate crisis as such as what it is through photosynthetic means. So yeah, so funny enough, these are actually AI generated images of what they think is photosynthesis. So yeah, basically what my work is looking at is using bacterial photosynthesis rather than looking at plant photosynthesis. And so the general idea that people get of photosynthesis is that it's plants using sunlight energy to convert carbon dioxide and water into oxygen and sugar. And for the most part, that is what happens. But on Earth, there is a wide plethora of different organisms that can perform photosynthesis, such as bacteria. And so in our lab, we work in different types of bacteria that can perform this different versions of photosynthesis that are very different to what plants can do. So plants use carbon dioxide and water, importantly, to produce oxygen and sugar. And this is known as oxygenic photosynthesis. So they're producing oxygen. And they're using light energy to drive this process. But in the bacteria that we work with, they work strictly in the absence of oxygen, most of them. So they don't produce any oxygen. They'll use hydrogen bound to X, which won't be oxygen, releasing something that isn't oxygen as such. They might use sulfur or something. So what are the structures of these photosynthetic organisms that they actually use to absorb light and convert it into organic matter? And again, these are AI generated images. So the general schematic is that there is a surrounding peripheral sort of antenna complex that is absorbing the light, and it's funneling the light energy into the central reaction center. And the reaction center is what abstracts or takes electrons from water or from sulfur or from hydrogen gas and funnels those electrons into central metabolism. And this is all powered by light energy. So if we look at how primordial planet used to look at the beginning, before life really emerged, it was a very volatile place. And so life couldn't exist on terrestrial land as we know it today. But what happened around 2.5 billion years ago, there was a great oxidation event where there was a huge upsurge in oxygen that led to the creation of ozone in our atmosphere, which protected our planet from UV rays. And this was all thanks to cyanobacteria, which are capable of performing this version of photosynthesis, where they crucially release oxygen into the environment. And so without this, we wouldn't be here today, essentially. So thanks to our endeavors as the human race, we've been huge amounts of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, creating a huge imbalance where photosynthetic carbon fixing organisms can't compete with the rate at which we're releasing this amount of gas. So the goal of my work is to create a novel version of photosynthesis that doesn't exist in nature, but would, in theory, remove carbon dioxide at a much greater rate than what plants can do and any other photosynthetic life form can do currently. So again, the purpose of the work, the efficient version of photosynthesis that could vacuum up carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, and different gases much faster than what other organisms can do concurrently. And so if we look at the phylogenetic tree of life, you have the basic schematic, you have bacteria, archaea, and eukaryotes, which is where we're found along with plants and all the other complex life forms. And that's what you're taught at school. It's quite a simplistic idea, but in reality, it's a far more complex structure. And the organism that we handle is hidden up here, the Firmicutes phylum, and it's heliobacteria that we're working with. And they're a form of light absorbing bacterium, but they can't take on carbon from the atmosphere. And so heliobacteria, they use light, but oxygen kills them, and they can't take up carbon dioxide, but they'll use sulfur or hydrogen sulfide or sulfuric gas of some kind to power their metabolism. And so what we want to do is put this initial carbon fixing process called the Wood-Lungdal pathway, which plants can't do. and then augment it with further carbon fixing pathways, the glycine synthase, methane fixation, RTCA cycle, to create a sort of supercharged carbon fixing organism. But in order to do this, you need to give it enough energy. So you'd have to allow it to absorb more light to power this process. So in order to do that, you'd have to give it additional pigments, things called chlorosomes, pyridine, chlorophyll A, to upscale it. And so then what we'd like to do, if we can get this working at the single cell level, is to put it into, say, bioreactors, where we can put these into really large containers where we can control the gas content, which are like these structures here. And then my inspiration for this really comes from the idea that if you can running, you can then put this possibly beside factories or vehicles that are releasing the carbon at its source and prevent it reaching the atmosphere in the first place. And so we could, yeah, and that was essentially all of it. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, James. Don't be running away too far. Do we have Rob? Rob? We don't have a Rob, which is a real shame because Rob was going to be our last talk of the day. Which is a real shame because I think I may even have his presentation. So if you'd like to, what? No. Yeah. If you want to move some chairs to the front, that'd be great. And then we've got a roving mic also. I'll rove the mic. Okay.
My musician's passing this.
Yeah. Let's tell them. Okay, let's do. Okay.
Yeah, I used to be.
Who was that?
Yeah,
Excellent.
I used to do a cappella. Yeah, I was past like we were the a cappella ads.
Yeah. Okay. There we go. Brilliant. Sorry. Yeah. No, I'm speaking too loudly now. Stop my slides from moving forward. There we go. Okay. Cool. Brilliant. Thank you all very much. That was we've all really well. I've really enjoyed all that. Can we give our speakers another round of applause? Thank you very much. That's what I like to see. People who've put some effort in and have turned up. So this section, we don't never normally have this section within Ignite. Normally, it's kind of you get up, you do your talk, you get off. To be really dismissive. But so for this, for these Ignites, this Ignite section, we have a Q&A. Does anybody have any questions of any of our speakers? Thank you very much, Cal. My mind's gone blank.
About AI. Sorry, I can't remember your name. Hello. About AI. I know a lot of writer friends that have lost work because of AI. So considerable amounts of work. So what would you say to them as if you're like the Prime Minister or something? But what is your view on that and what because I know you're saying that the AI can't replace creativity, and you're quite right because one of my widow friends, she suggested to AI write a poem about widow's fire. Now, widow's fire is about an increase in libido after being bereaved, and the AI came out with a poem just about widows making fires. So it didn't get what widow's fire was. So yes, I'm just about what writers. What you think about creatives losing basically a lot of income because of AI and that lack of connection with true creativity as well?
Yeah, so I think it's quite an interesting one in the domain of creativity because what we're going to see now are a lot of amateurs. If you no longer have to spend the time to master your craft to get a passable creative output, then all of a sudden it means that everyone can produce, say, a poem or produce, say, a copy to sell their product, their service, or even just to share what they've been up to. I do think there's going to be. I mean, the proof is in the pudding for a lot of the professional writers who are able to articulate because it's all well and good if you can articulate what you want to achieve in a way that is like bog standard, so an imitation of whatever's been in the past, then that will only get you so far. It still sounds robotic. It still sounds it's literally sounds cliche because it is designed to be the most likely interpretation of what you've asked it to do. Um, so there will be less people that need writing for like small scale projects, but to still captivate an audience, you still need to be a professional creative. To same as a generative art, right? I think we're going to see a real rise in people wanting to pay the premium of a piece of artwork made by humans, like by a person that you can see they've made like by paint stroke, than an image you buy online, because it could what would I say to a creative in that space? I would say show them, for your clients, show them what the AI can do and then show them how you can do it better, because that's what your gift is, that's what your skill is. And yeah, that's it.
Thanks very much, Kath. Line, Caroline, it was really funny the way that you said Liverpool would be Facebook and be Google, and there are those kind of as a good friend once mentioned a similar kind of talk event, those kind of walled gardens of Facebook and Google. Do you want to talk a little bit more about that?
So that's actually happening already in the world today to a certain extent. So in China, where they really control everything, their version of WhatsApp, you literally can't get a train, you can't buy lunch, you do not exist in a system unless you're on that. And it's quite terrifying. And this is happening as well in newer cities in the Middle East and the US, where Amazon is saying, we're going to start doing food. You'll see shopping's popped up on Amazon, food growth locally. So if you live in, just imagine you live in an Amazon smart home and, your food comes from there and everything, your travel. It's harder to do in Europe because we've got these older legacy cities, and Europe, not UK, has a lot of regulation around that. So it's just harder to do here. It's not worth their money. But you can see it in our behavior with everything. It's so convenient, and I use all this stuff. But yeah, it is actually happening. And if you get that, you know what it's like. You're trying to get a Word doc, and Google and Word aren't talking to each other now. Imagine that on a city level. And I'm not scaremongering here. I think, it's really useful. It's really convenient. I think the UK is probably a better place to avoid the worst of that. I would just say, watch your choices. I try not to be too reliant on this stuff. And I mean, I'm old, so, I hate the idea of anyone controlling my food. But yeah, it kind of is happening.
So a train from the new Edge Hill train station, which is obviously going to be super big and super well built, possibly, architecture wise, it could be super, and they'll dig up Crown Street Park once more. We'll be getting a train from Edge Hill train station. We'll be having to get off, say, in Warrington, transferring from the Facebook train or the Meta train, changing trains to the Google train that takes all the way to Manchester.
And you might have to have a whole different set of systems, or I mean, it's kind of not that far from privatization, right?
Yeah.
You've already got like transport systems or water where they're all different companies, they're taking the profit out and you're getting a very bad service. Yeah, if it was worth their while, which I don't think it is, they'd all be doing it, but they wouldn't speak to each other, and that'll sort of just compartmentalize us more. So,
and I think there was, I mean, the years ago when they were talking about, Facebook are introducing the internet in, in African countries, and it was going to be, you were only going to be able, you'd get free internet, but it would only be Facebook, and people thought that Facebook was the internet, and very much tied to it. Does anybody else have a question? Otherwise, I'll just keep on asking. Gary, here you go, Gary.
Hiya. I've got two questions actually. Firstly, on the bacteria side of things, how are you going to stop it going all Jurassic Park on us? That's what I want to ask. And the other question was on the architecture. I'll let you answer that first.
Okay. So with the bacteria that we're working with, they're very picky in the way that you grow them. So the growth conditions that they grow under optimally are very, very specific. So if you expose them to oxygen of a certain concentration, they'll most likely die very quickly. So if they were released into the atmospheric conditions that we are here in, they wouldn't last long at all. So in that sense, it's like a fail-safe measure, and that you can do whatever you like to them, and then if you're not happy with them, oxygen will just get rid of them straight away. So you can't really see a scenario of where they'd get out of control, really. And
would there be any implication if they did that?
Well, they're not pathogenic. They haven't got any capacity to cause disease. These are strictly photosynthetic organisms that just use light energy to power their metabolism. And we're interested in the light harvesting aspect of them because it's essentially a near infinite source of energy, in that it's light from the sun that's striking these organisms, and they're absorbing it and converting it into chemical energy. And so, yeah, that's the attractive aspect of them to us.
Right. Thank you. And with regards to the architecture, you showed a slide at the end, and there was like a Neapolitan coloured building with grassy ramp up. Was that AI or was that real?
No, it looks like AI, actually. If I had more than 15 seconds, I would have explained what it was. So that's by an architect called Hundertwasser, who was a sort of, well, he dabbled with communism. That he was a communist, sort of 1950s, 60s. And that's a big social housing development in Austria. Yeah. So one of the things he wanted to do with his architecture was to bring like nature into our houses. So literally there are like mature trees growing out of the middle of that development, like, and I just think it's a great image because it reminds you that things could be different, buildings could be different, public housing could be different. And of course, in the 50s and 60s, that was precisely not when corporations, but when governments were funding experiments, with housing, not for the wealthy, but for the poorest. Those for poor people, right? For people with modest jobs or the unemployed. So I think that image is interesting. You landed on that, Gary, because I think it does open up a lot of the things I wanted to say in my talk, really, about the future.
Yeah, and it looked beautiful and creative as well.
Yeah, it's great, isn't it? Thanks, Gary.
Well, does anybody else have any questions? Okay.
I'm just here to pass the microphone backwards and forwards.
You're the sort of AI imagining what it will be like in 50 years' time or whatever. I was struck by a sense of isolation. People in individual suits with visors that you can no physical contact. And I think I'd just like to ask what you all think about the idea of isolation in all years, in relation to each of the subjects you talked about.
Yeah, I mean, you just have to look around you, don't you? Like, if you get a bus now, everyone's on their phone, and it's a bit sad, really. I think we all notice it, and then we all do it, don't we? And we are more isolated, and it's all been proven, and we're all really segmented as well. So we're not mixing as much. And I think Liverpool's better for that because it's a smaller city, unlike somewhere like London, where you can just see people like you who agree with you. Unfortunately, yeah, that trend is there. I don't want to be really dystopian on it. I think there's things we can do, but it does worry me with sort of younger people with their ability to have patience and attention span and things like this, for instance, which is just people in a room. I think that's never been more important. So all the time out of your week, it's making time to not just do stuff that's convenient for you on your phone the way you want it. And it worries me, that kind of demand led culture where I want this. No, yeah, I want that. No, that kind of thinking, which that's kind of how we're being programmed to behave. And that's not life. So yeah, I just totally agree with you on that one. Don't know what the answer is, but
I think a really profound question, actually, because I think pandemic really showed it very acutely that wealthy individuals create the types of lives that they want to live, right? That's got massive implications for the rest of us as well, actually. So I think that the kind of the collective social life, not just of the elites, but of everyone, is a fundamental way in which. I mean, I was talking about architecture. It's a fundamental way in which architecture should be judged. So, one of the things that frustrates me about architecture is that very often it's about the celebrity architects, the most expensive buildings in the most exclusive parts of the most expensive cities, places where most of us are never going to go. Right? We might see it on the internet or in the pages of a magazine, but I think actually, as Caroline said, opening up cities to sort of different types of social action, to making cities welcome to different types of people is a fundamental challenge. Like now and for the future. So I think that sometimes visions that come from elites, they're quite seductive, But the question you asked before about, well, what about jobs? What about people's jobs? That's important, isn't it? And we can't let those types of questions slip off the agenda because we think the future is going to be bright and beautiful for everyone. We've got to fight for it, I think.
Yeah, I do think the isolation one's going to keep coming up, especially with the So Apple had their headset announcement last month, and it's this idea of putting a computer on your face, right? Putting a computer on your face is quite a scary thought for how that's going to affect your ability to communicate with people around you. So I do, and I feel it very acutely. When I get in the lift, as someone with attention and impulsivity problems, if people get in the lift, I'll impulsively say hello. If I bump into people in the street who I don't know, I'll say hello. And the reaction that you get is jarring because a lot of people are very much stuck in this insular environment. But that being said, I do think that cities like Liverpool, I do not see going that way because Liverpool, by all intents and purposes, is one of the most friendly and open cities that I've been to in the world. I think this library is a testament to that. The amount of events that are happening here on a weekly basis. If you have an idea for starting a business, you can come here every Thursday, and there are experienced professionals who will give you guidance on how you can make your idea into a successful business. If you want to get involved with community groups, there are people that direct you to various social prescription services through the Liverpool Care Network. Again, here every Thursday. There are numerous there are community litter picks. I moved here a year and a half ago, and I've been able to infiltrate my local areas like CIC to be able to run litter picks and community events and crafternoons. And I think there is an element of isolation where people have withdrawn from engaging with their community. But I do think what excites me about all of the AI stuff I talk about is that it will enable people to connect with more people in their community should they choose to, because they no longer have to. It's no longer okay, well, how do I write an email to all of my neighbors saying, or how do I draft a letter to my counselor saying, can we improve this thing? You can now just ask a computer and it will do it for you. So I understand the pessimism. Well, it's not pessimism. It's a fear, isn't it, of going further down the rabbit hole. But I also think that people are now equipped with tools to be able to do amazing things as a collective.
I suppose when it comes to the idea of isolation in the academic environment where I'm in, you do see elements of it when you're working on your own research and you're having to focus very intently on what you're trying to achieve. whether it be trying to get data or trying to get things written up for publishing or whatever. And so there's a tremendous pressure for you to get things done in that sense. And so you do tend to isolate yourself from your environment because you just want to focus and get things done. But at the same time, academia is a very open environment where the collaboration is encouraged between labs, between individuals in the same lab, because you can tell each other certain techniques, certain ideas that you haven't thought of before. And so I think academia is one of those places where, even during the pandemic, I think it's been one of the things that stayed quite open because people talk, people discuss things, ideas, they converse about, could you do this? Could you do that? And so I suppose from my perspective, I've been going to different events, meeting other people, and it's it's given me an idea that there's a much bigger world of science out there if you're willing to step out and meet these people and talk about these different things. But if you choose not to, that's fine. But you'll confine yourself into a very isolated world. So it's on you really to go out and talk to people about these things and talk, and learn something from them. They might learn something from you. I think that's the whole thing about science. I think it's really fun in that regard.
Thank you, Kath. And
Sorry, just one more thing to add on that is if AI does take all our jobs, what are we going to do with all our time? And I suppose it's the way our economy is structured is that no one's rewarded for community stuff. And if you work in care, it's very badly paid. So there are really good ideas around, like say you did loads of work helping or giving back, maybe you don't pay council tax or maybe your taxes are less. And I do think that would incentivize how we do stuff because at the moment, if you want to give back, you do it on top of all the other thing, and it's always the same 30%, they say, don't they, who are doing all the caring. So I think it is about how our and you think about it, we inherited these structures, but we can change them. And I think we've got to think, what can we do to change them?
It's a question for
so we're living in a system we can change. So yeah.
The thing I would say there is that I think there should be supportive and enriched infrastructure around social enterprise. I think Liverpool's very strong for the amount of community groups and you can non-profit is a dirty word in the social enterprise world because ultimately organizations have to make money to be able to function, right? That's just fundamental. You have to have an economic redistribution of some kind for people to be able to pay their rent. But I do think that we will see sort of an ongoing trend, especially among young people, of coming out of universities and starting social enterprises. Because if you live in, we're quite fortunate region, there are much more accessible, affordable options for life that, and if you're in a social enterprise, there is a cap to what you're achieving, like the capital gain that you can make from your enterprise. You see, I mean, I'm constantly in awe of things like Baltic Creative, which has absolutely changed the face of the Baltic Triangle area. We've just got Baltic Ventures, which is looking again, investing in passion, purpose-led organizations. We have Kindred LCR, which invests 0% equity loans. So 0% loans for socially trading organizations, which are looking to make the world a better place. I do think that the narrative around what a business is slowly changing, and you do have, I mean, capitalism's going to die a long death, but yeah.
Sorry. Great. Francis, did you have a question?
It was more a comment, really. It was just the systems and things that we're fighting against, that we need to fight against, otherwise, the carbon crunch is coming. Those systems were imposed on us. There's nothing fixed about them. This is one of the things I say to people who, to me, capitalism is a technology. It's a way of doing things. well, let's just invent a different technology. We're very good at that. And yeah, we might have problems. You know, you look at all the stuff people say about what happened in the Soviet Union, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But, you know, you've got to give it a go, for God's sake. Just sitting on your hands and going, oh, yeah, well, it was a bit. Just start, have a go. Try and make the world a better place. Leave it better than you found it. I mean, drives me crazy. And like I say, it's just a technology. Capitalism is a technology. And it's not, it doesn't have to be the way it is. And that it drives me crazy that it's like this nutty stuff at the moment about, oh yeah, we have to keep increasing interest rates because in the 1980s people could spend less, so inflation came down. Well, everyone's broke now. Can't spend. There's no less to spend, so it's a stupid idea and it's not going to work. So and that's being imposed on us by idiots. We just don't, you know. Yeah, I better shut up now.
Neil, can I just say,
Yeah,
I think, you know, it's a really, really important starting point that the systems that we've got today have come about. They're arrangements that they could have been temporary. They're not always, they're not forever, but they feel like that, you know. And I think if you look at, you know, if you look at capitalism, then, you know, we've got housing crises, we've got, you know, cost of living crisis, we've got homelessness crisis, we've got a care crisis, you know, and these are things that they're not easy to change, unfortunately. And I think that goes back to the thing I wanted to say about power, that people, you know, capitalism works for lots of people at the top, right? Unfortunately for the rest of us, it doesn't work. It creates these kinds of absolutely, I mean, vile social problems. So changing it's not easy, but I don't think that means that we should stop trying. You know what I mean? I think imagination and organization and doing things together is a really, really important starting point.
I think I know the alarming elephant in the room around that is that it does create like the system does inherently create problems, right? But it's also the same system that's led to the building of this library and the fact that we're all sat here, you know, sat around talking about these things. Like it's part of the process, and it's a tool that has worked for like people at the top, but it has also been sufficient to appease enough people for it to get as far as it has.
I mean, interesting point. If you think we were doing this when this library was built, and there would have been no women here, and there would have been no disabled people here, and poor people would have actively been excluded from spaces like this. Now, you can see that as a marker of progress, right? It's not the end of the story, and they're very hard fought victories, them, actually. And I think that's why, you know, they don't just happen, you know, and it does mean sort of not being blasé and assuming that the future will automatically be better. It might be better for some, but it's not going to be better automatically for everyone.
I think is the counter to that is that we now have so I entirely agree with what you're saying, is that like the process by which we have gotten here is an ugly and horrific one, but where we are able to go now and the fights that we will have to make society, the world, a more equitable and inclusive place are enriched by the new technologies that we have, such that more people will be able to participate in those dialogues and in that change. And hopefully we'll have a brighter tomorrow.
Okay, okay, it's great. It's getting very deep. Does anybody have any other questions before we all go? Oh, great! I was going to say we all go home and start typing into AI. You know, how is it we can overturn the capitalist system?
Sorry, maybe this is the last one. Okay, right. You mentioned that AI. You said it wasn't creative, but it can create. I wondered, in what ways do you think human creativity is special, and if we'll ever see a truly creative computer?
So the question was, what So, what distinguishes human creativity?
Yeah, why are we special? And can computers ever show this really special trait?
So, whether a computer would be able to demonstrate the same traits is I'm not sure anyone is particularly sure. But it also, I suppose, depends on the social environment with which you define that creativity. So, like the setting ultimately. Um, if I mean, for me, human creativity is um, contextual. It's the ability to analyze all of the information around you simultaneously and be able to create novel insights. Um, for me, human creativity is collaborative. No good idea is, an idea is only a good idea when it is not isolated. It has to be connected with a community. It has to be connected with others. And I think ultimately human creativity is our ability to convey through our actions and our work. And there is a limit to what a computer, the machine story might be its own separate entity, but what we do as a species or as individuals or as collectives to define our own narrative and the choices we make, the people we decide to help, the things we do which we decide give life meaning are ultimately like our most innate form of creativity in my world.
5 years ago, I would have said no. And I think the more and more I'm seeing, I'm going maybe. So, what is creativity? Like in our brains or minds, if I had to design something or make something up, it's just loads of information in my head that swirls around, and then I apply something and I come out with something. And that's pretty much what AI is doing. There's a very good documentary called The Science of the Pop Song, where they analyze music for 100 years. It's on BBC. It's very good. And what they concluded is that AI, this is a while ago now, was very good at telling you what was good and what people would like, but it wasn't very good at creating a new movement like punk or something like that. And I think that's where we are now. It's very good at the craft stuff. It's very good at giving things people that they want that are impressive. Can it create a new illustrative style? Can it create a story that's really got that meaning? I don't know. I don't think we're there yet. I think it probably could get there, but I think as humans, we're always looking for the authentic. It's like looking at a melamine floor. Like if you'd showed that to someone in the 1800s, they'd be like, oh, it's wood, it's amazing. And now we know it's fake. We're like, oh, it's horrible. The minute we know it's fake, we don't identify anymore. So I think we'll want to seek that out. But I do think it'll be the 10% of people who are those amazing innovators who get that work. And unfortunately, I do worry about the mass of people underneath who should just do the stuff. So yeah, maybe, probably, yeah.
That was creativity. Brilliant. Thank you very much. Any other questions? Well, you can tell me.
Optimism. You mentioned, I don't like optimism. You mentioned power and obviously architecture itself.
Yeah.
How optimistic are you that in 30 years, the public and in particular, isolated our buildings and our spaces are constructed in the best way for them? Like, for example, children, the elderly. How optimistic that in 30 years we'll be having a say in things like that?
I really a very important question. I think that there are lots of reasons to be cheerful. Actually, I mean, a lot of the time I spend being big, powerful structures where they're exclusionary in different ways. And I've got a disabled daughter, and I know that the world is quite hostile actually to disabled people in different ways. People with different types of mobilities. It's a very difficult thing to navigate. However, the optimistic bit is that there are lots of bright, creative, committed people who are working incredibly hard to try and change those things. So I mean, a couple of the initiatives that I always think of. You know, there's Architecture for Humanity, and they do interventions in sort of post disaster societies. You know, within big natural disasters. There's a place, I had an image of it on my penultimate slide. It's like a kind of a straw baled house that students in Alabama who are doing architecture degrees, they try to work with community groups to identify what do you need. You know, do you need like cheap, warm homes for people, or do you need like a youth club for kids? You know, we'll get them in. So there are lots of reasons to be cheerful, actually. And I could have done a talk like today, I could, you know, ignoring all those big vanity, you know, monuments and focusing on that. So I think that there are lots of reasons to be optimistic. In short, yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Oh, sorry. One final question.
It's a tiny point. One of the things talking about the AI thing is I call it the tyranny of the bland. You know, because averaging everything down and then regenerating it. If you haven't got a human curating that, it's just going to be dull stuff. Like generative music. Oh, I found a 20-minute section which is absolutely beautiful. You may have well listened to 10 hours of crap to get to that 20 minutes. And I think we're still in the loop, guys. It's just that we're going to be curating stuff rather than creating it from scratch. I think there's still plenty for human beings to be doing.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, for me, what we're seeing is that we're moving away from an information economy where you're valued based on your ability to know how to do something, and we will ideally move towards a cultural economy where it is the quality of your idea in the context of, you know, community that defines value. And that's going to be a rocky transition from, you know, people who have had access to knowledge or opportunities for whatever systemic, or, you know, it could equally be luck that you know, whatever reason that people have been able to acquire the knowledge and skills that they have, we will ideally move to a world in which it is not your ability to know something, but your ability to apply that knowledge for the benefit of others. That, you know, it's the same as music. You can have a robot that will play violin, but it's not able to do vibrato the same way that a human can because it can't control randomness in a way that conveys emotion. And similarly, you know, you can have all the information. You know, we're in a building full of information about so many topics to make the world more interesting or better. But ultimately, you still need people to curate and then share that with the world. So yeah.
I guess I just worry a bit that, like, if you look at the music industry, yeah, I think in a way it's better now because you can listen to anything you want, but there's also so much noise and there's just so much going on, and it's not been better for artists in the long run. So, and also splitting up the craft of doing something with the idea. We've become so divorced from things, and there's a reason that doing something is quite good for us, actually, because it slows down your mind and it makes you listen and it makes you have to collaborate. And I think even if you trained as a visual effects artist and then AI could do everything, what all those things you had to do to get there are the valuable bit, you know? And yeah, I don't really have an answer to that, but I think I wouldn't just throw away all the doing. I think humans need to do things for many reasons, and I hope we don't lose that completely.
Yep, brilliant. Thank you very much to all of our speakers, to our panel. Thank you very much for coming along. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
So as I said, this is Ignite Liverpool. We do a regular event at Leaf Cafe. If you'd like to come along there, you can find out details on the website when I put them on the website. But thank you very much for Liverpool MakeFest for hosting us again this year in such a lovely this time, not like last year. And that's it. Thank you very much. Oh, and 3 o'clock, there's a talk by Tina Friedman. Freeman? Tina Freeman. Yeah. Yeah, mute that. God's sake. Brilliant. Thank you very much. Yeah. No, that was really, really good.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, in the IT center, and so yeah, uploads and yeah. So yeah, they're here on Thursday. The rest of the one, three. We just got to go.
Hello?
They're in the car. I put something on the side now. I don't. I haven't. I'm too big. Yeah, I can't bother. No, I'm fine. No, I'm fine. Thank you. Sorry? Okay. Yeah, so it's in the information with the links. Yeah. What's it mean? Did you think did you like the sixth? Oh yeah, the tour that Spencer Lee, he's got him.
Was that good for you,
It's
Dan?
on the radio, yeah. Okay. Sorry? There's a talk at 3 o'clock. It's an illustrator called Tina Freeman who's doing she's done things like this Beatles thing here. She's talking about and she designs clothes as well. So she's got some clothes in the exhibition and stuff. She's doing a little half-hour talk. No, you should go on that, totally, yeah. Yeah, as far as I know. Okay. Thank you. Oh, thank you. Good too is you could integrate with something like a yeah, so you could integrate with this with what I would do. I would just there was one that's like a one instead. Those that you can put it in, you provide to the greater sentiment of the numbers. So veins and then ideas relating to sad or ideas relating to But you could do that. That would be quite a good way of electoral history. Letters just because you MPs. You find do this. Why not?
Well, what I'm saying, this is like, I want to be able to feed you, then I'll one, but could you this sort of want to make this definitely? Yeah.
Saying if I don't have well, I'm out of something like that.
This is actual way. Come down, up the stage now. I'm walking up to the sense this thing. Was more than it. But it's now. Just things to help. It's you also. It is obvious why I'm house. Oh, well then.
I encourage like ideas. So like females for at the end of the day, like yeah, some people can make it fine. Yes, facility adding point.
Yeah.
Next thing in the signal. Yeah, dropping down now. What did you get? Well, really. Something like very small setting. It's basically flat. I spent so long in the planet root stuff. So I did this your list. Wonder boy, that's just begun. Time you the taxman's taken on my door and left me in my stately home, blazing on the sunny earth. And I can't sail my yacht. He's taken everything I got. All I've got's this sunny afternoon. Save me, save me, save me from this squeeze. I got a big fat mama trying to break me. And I love to live so pleasantly. Live this life of luxury. Lazily in the summertime. In the summertime. The summertime. Let's run off with my car. I've gone back to my car, telling tales of drunkenness and cruelty. Now I'm sitting here, sipping at my ice cold beer, blazing on the sunny afternoon. Help me, help me, help me sing. Will give me two good reasons why to stay. 'Cause I love to live so pleasantly. Live this life luxuries. Lays in the sunny in the summertime. The summertime. The summertime. Ah, save me, save me, save me from this sweetie. I got a big mama trying to break me. And I love to live so pleasantly. Live this life of luxury. Days sunny here. The summertime, the summertime, the summertime, the summertime, the summertime. There's too much on my mind. There's too much on my mind. And I can't sleep at night thinking about it. I'm thinking all the time. There's too much on my mind. It seems there's more to life than just to live it. There's too much on. There's nothing to say. There's too much on my mind. Things I can do about it. About it. My thoughts just weigh me down and drag me to the ground and shake my head till there's no more life in me. It's ruining my brain. I'll never be the same. My poor demented mind is slowly going. There's too much on my mind till there is nothing I can say. There's too much on my mind till there is nothing I can say. About it, about it. There's too much on my mind. Nice and smooth. Fa 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 fa. I am a dumb and simple lad. Cannot tell water from champagne. And I have never met the queen. If I wish I could shake me like David once. And night, I dream I can fight like David. Lead the school team to victory. Take my team to the bus. Shut me like David. Shut me like David was. I'm gonna die. David was. I wish I knew. David was. He's the captain of the team. He's so gay and fancy. He was that notion. Check me like David. Try to go out for tainted thoughts. They try their best, but can't succeed. On years of your bad no creed. Wish I could be like. Wish I could be. Wish I could be like. Wish I could be like. Dirty old river, must you keep rolling into the night? People so busy, make me feel busy. Taxi light shines so bright, but I on the side days of watching the sunset. Chilly, chilly, it's summer. Autumn is sunset, sun. Terry meets Julie, Waterloo Station, every Friday night. I am so lazy, don't want to wonder. I stay at home, but I don't break. As long as I days of Waterloo sunset, I am in paradise. Every day I look at the world, my clothes are chilly, chilly, with easy beach side. Until the sun sets flat. Millions of people swarming like flies round Waterloo underground. But Terry and Kitty cross over the river. They feel safe and sound. And they don't wanna take some Waterloo sunset. Yeah, in paradise. You wanna get a photo of? Wonder boy, life's just begun. Turn your sorrow into wonder. Dream of love, don't settle. Life is only what you wonder. Days is light, ship right to dream. Night is looking to feel love to be. Time just pass so slow. Life is lonely. One, one, every So people see that I see you and you see me. And ain't that wonderful? Wonderful, some other sound. Life is full of work and love. Got easy go. Life is not. Life is not what you come to. What? But I see you and you see me. Ain't that what you're what some other sun turning sorrow into wonder. Dream of love of your pride. Love is love again.
Very surreal world, isn't it?
Thank you for the days. Those endless days are sacred days you gave me. I'm thinking of the days. I won't forget a single day. I bless the light. I bless the light that lights on you, believe me. Though you're gone, you're with me every single day, believe me. Days I remember all my life. Days when you can't see all my life. So I love the days you have said you believe me. But it's alright. Now I'm not frightened of this world, believe me. I wish to thank you. But it keeps on easy. Life is dark. It just brings so that way. Thank you for the day. Those endless days are sacred days you gave me. I'm thinking of the day. I'll forget a single day, believe me. Things I remember all my life. Days when you can't see on front line. You took time back, but then I was never certain you need me. But it's alright. Now I'm not fighting up this world, believe me. I keep on. Yes, it's a sacred days you gave me. I'm thinking of the day. I'll forget a single day, believe me. I just like I just like the shines on you, believe me. Though you're gone, you're with me every single day, believe me.
Thank you, everyone.
Picture yourself when you're getting off. That's outside of hunger. Pictures of your father, they come to your papa. Long time ago, our people with each other, and prove they love each other. A long time ago. Picture of picture. A picture of you in your birthday suit. Standing in summer, on the Charlie, I'm choosing them friends. All of their purpose outside of the breakfast, running out. They were just things, they knew you were happy, long time ago. Picture, 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 picture. Long time ago. Long time ago, yeah. Seems like the world's fighting. People talking, talking. The cold Russian and the Chinese, the Spanish doing the fighting. The sun is shining, the girls drop on the water, even think on it. You forget to your brothers, get them on the car, take a drive for day. Sandwich the back, tease your house, plenty of beer, gooseberry tarts, take a drive for things. Take your brother if you want. Have a picnic home. Forget your nephews and your cousins and your brothers and your sisters. There's nothing sex. Well, one bit, why don't you come take a drive? Talk to the cows, love with the sheep, lie in the field. We'll have sleep, take a drive with me. Though the trouble all around us seems to be turned away. Collectors on behind it, but they'll never find us. House furniture, a two-quarter bar, You won't be home late. It's not very far. Take a drive with me. Take a drive with me. But I think you're trying to get. You're trying to get this.
Yes, please, yes. There you go. No, just ask yourself.
Search the of the sea, of the rich, listening for the Lord. Smoking lights, village queen, Victoria was my queen. Victoria, Victoria, I was lucky me in the land that I love. Oh, what for? I am free when I grow.